Hey guys, what up? So in this video, what we're going to be talking about is how to get Angular.js working with a Django application. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually developing something that is in production right now, and bringing in Angular to take over some of the server-side responsibilities to move it to the client side. So the website in question here is called newmovies.com, and currently this particular example is not in production right here, but this application is available online. And this is the typical movie page of the application. And all this data is coming from the database. And what I want to do is I want Angular to be able to deliver this for me. So that being said, what you need is you need to have Django installed. And Django, if you don't know, is a web framework for Python. It's definitely the best framework out there in the Python language. And it's a good competitor for Ruby on Rails and also for ASP.NET. So I would say Django, ASP, and Ruby on Rails are probably the three top frameworks out there. And you can see on Django discuss Instagram, Mozilla, Pinterest, sites like The Onion, and NPR, like a ton of big sites use Django. In fact, I think more large sites use Django than Ruby on Rails. But anyway, so it can definitely scale. What we need, though, in order for Angular to be able to work right, Angular is a JavaScript framework, and it's supposed to take a lot of the responsibilities of the server to deliver data and things to and from a database, whatever. It has a lot of the client side handle making those requests and things like that. A lot of it's done asynchronously using Ajax, so that it's sending a request to your server, or even just manipulating the DOM, which is the document object model, which really just means how everything is situated on your HTML page. Angular makes it a breeze to be able to hide and show certain things, display data upon certain things, and really when it does need to communicate with the database to save something, you're going to want to do that via an API. So you want to have an API on your Django application to expose certain things like updating a movie or deleting a movie or whatever. And it's all just HTTP calls to your RESTful service, and that call will consist of like JSON, which is stands for JavaScript object notation, and JSON is it's an easier version of XML basically, so it's structured data that is very suited for the web, very low footprint. So all right, that being said, in order to get a RESTful API on your Django application, there's two options. There's Django TastyPie, and then there's Django REST Framework. The Django REST Framework, I started off with TastyPie. I actually loved it. I found it was a lot easier than REST Framework, but Django REST Framework has definitely arisen as being like really the only option that anybody should be going with at this point for any sort of Django application. Django TastyPie is about to be, it's going to have some compatibility problems here as Django moves into the future, especially for Python 3.0. So with Django, it doesn't matter if you're on Windows or Linux. Since it's a production environment, I'm going to be using my Linux shell through PuTTY since I'm on a Windows. But either way, whatever your command line is, whether it's Windows or Linux, what we need to do is go ahead and just pip install. And it's going to be Django REST Framework, one word. Alright, and you're going to see it actually do a lot more than what mine just did, but mine's already installed. Now that we've done that, we need to go over to our settings file of our Django application. And I have that pulled up here. I'll go ahead and zoom in a little bit so you guys can see a little bit better. Alright, so TastyPie is currently installed. I'm actually going to be removing that. Sorry, TastyPie. And we're going to be using REST Framework. So let's go ahead and add that to our installed apps, and that's what this is here. Installed apps, these are all different apps that New Movies currently uses. And we're going to say, what the hell is it called? Alright, it's just simply called REST_framework. Alright, so we'll add that over. Alright, so now that we've installed that, I'm going to go ahead and go back over to my my shell. And we want to do python manage.py and syncdb. Hopefully I don't run any problems since I just removed tastypie from the application. And since this is in production, let's go ahead and just make sure we didn't blow up anything. And we did no module name API. That's because of the tastypie reference. Right, 1 second. Alright, so to give you guys an idea on what this site looks like, when we go back here. Alright, so this is, like I said, an existing website right now. Not a ton of traffic. I'm going to be redesigning it, really trying to do a lot of work to it, I think, to try to expand on my skills and stuff like that. So I think there'll be a lot of improvements down the road. But anyway, just to give you an idea on what we're going to be implementing Angular into, we're going to start with the actual movie object. And the movie is its own app. So there's a movie app, and a movie app would consist of something like this, where when you go to the movie, this particular movie page is not in production right now. If you actually go to the site, you're going to see something that looks different. But this is the direction that I'll be taking the website going forward. But you can see there's like reviews here. There's a trailer, image, got rating system, all that stuff. You got all the different star objects, and all this stuff is based off of the movie app itself. So that's what we're going to implement Angular into. So to give you an idea on what the model looks like, the model is a relatively big bastard, as you can see. We have we have stars, which is a many-to-many relationship to different stars. Like stars is its own object where like you have information in regards to all this stuff symbolizes something within new movies. And what we need this to be, though, is we need to be able to communicate with this via an API, and that's where Django REST Framework is going to come in. Alright, so to get that started, let's go ahead and go to our everything in this is called my project. And we want to go over to where we have like our settings file and everything, which you can see is here, settings URL views. This is all for the main app. Let's go ahead and add a new file. I'm using Visual Studio. Try to disregard that. It's weird how I have to do this, but just set up a new Python file. We're going to call this serializers.py. So just like that. And now, first things first, we need to say from REST framework. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on this. Come on. Alright, 1 second. Import serializers. Right, so from REST framework, import serializers, and we're going to say from movie.models, because remember this is the movie app, and this is going to be whatever app you need to build Angular for. So I'm sorry, not Angular, but REST framework. So we're dealing with the models. We're going to say import model movie, which is the name of the model class. Then we say from Django.contrib.auth.models import user. And that is the standard out of the box user table that Django comes for authentication and things. And we're going to build a class, and we're going to call this movie serializer. And then we pass in serializers dot hyperlinked model serializer. And we add an internal class meta. And we're going to say model equals movie. And then we're going to say fields equals, and these are all the fields that you want to expose. So for right now, we'll say title, ID, We're going to want to do a lot, but for right now I'm going to do this. I'm just going to do some simple stuff for right now. Alright, so next thing we want to do, let's go over to the movie project or app within our project. And in our views there, let's go ahead and add some views for our API. And we're going to have to import a bunch of crap. So we're going to say from Django.shortcuts import render to response. And we also want to probably, I don't even know that I need that actually. Sorry, we probably don't even need that, but we'll leave it there in case we bring in any other views. So let's go ahead and create a view set view for the movie API. So we're going to call this movie view set, and then we pass in viewsets dot model view set. And then here we're going to just say query set equals movie.objects.all, and we'll give it a serializer class. Serializer class equals movie serializer, which we just defined. Okay, and since we're going to be referencing that, we obviously need to import that, so we have to say from serialize. Actually, we should say from project serializers, yeah. Whatever your project name is, just say from that dot serializers import and then movie serializer. Just so you guys can see this. Now, another thing too is that when this thing, since it's in production, I don't want it to be, I don't want people to be able to edit stuff. So what we want to do is we want to add a permission on this this view set here, so that only a super user or at least the owner of the object in question. So if I created the movie object, then I would be the only one to be able to edit that. So just for right now, until I get my authentication figured out, I'm just going to make sure that only I have access to that. So let's create a permission class, and we're going to say equals. Here, this is where you just pass in a custom permission class. And right now we haven't created one, but we're just going to say is owner or read only. And that is just a tuple. So let's go ahead and real quick, let's finish this off, and then we'll go ahead and create this class that doesn't exist yet. So down here we want to say define pre-save. We're overriding the save method. Self.object. And we'll say object.owner equals self.request.user. So basically, anytime a new movie is added by a user, what we're doing is we're assigning the object's owner as the current user. This needs to be spelled right. As the current logged in user. So that way, only they will be able to edit any sort of new movies that are added. So while we're in here, we need to go ahead and create another Python file for other permissions that we just referenced. And we'll just call it permissions.py. And we need to go ahead and import from REST framework. Import permissions. And then we create the class that we referenced just a second ago, and we'll say is owner or read only, and then we pass in permissions dot base permission. Let's create a method that has object permission self request view object. If request dot method in permissions dot safe methods. And what this does is it just verifies whether or not the person has permission to do something with that object. And basically what this does right here is it's saying that if it's a GET request, then GET requests are fine. You don't have to be authenticated. Obviously, you can't update anything with a GET request, so it just returns true. And then we're going to say, so if the if doesn't return true, then we say return object.owner equals request.user. All right, so only the user is going to, the user that created the object will be able to actually edit it. Otherwise, they can just view it. All right, let's go back over to our view real quick, and we need to import this is owner or read only. Otherwise, that'll fail. So we'll say from my project. Actually, we just say from permissions import this. Now, one of the things that I do want to fix now is that we have serializers in our root directory, and I want to remove that, and I want to put it in the app that it pertains to. So I'm putting it in the movie app. All right, so that's now in there. I need to fix the import then from permissions, or from the view actually. So we'll just say from serializers, import movie serializer. I just want to keep everything confined to this app. All right, so now it's time to go ahead and move on to the URLs of the movie app, which there isn't even one right now. So let's go ahead and create that. So it's just a standard urls.py file. And some standard things from Django.config.urls import star from REST framework import routers from movie from movie import views. That should work. All right, and then we're going to say router equals routers.default router. And then we're going to say router dot register, and here we're going to give a regular expression like we normally do with our URLs in Python and Django. So we're going to say movie, and then we'll say views dot movie view set. All right, now let's go ahead and define the URL patterns. So URL patterns equals patterns. We'll say URL r API / and then we just say include router.urls. Close off. All right, that looks good there. I can guarantee there's going to be some errors when I put this in production in just a second here, and we'll figure those out. Hopefully you guys can follow along with this. I would say this is probably, this is more moderate to more advanced level of programming in Django in particular, and certainly requires some sort of knowledge of Django REST framework, which I'm not an expert in that. I've hardly used it at all, so it's definitely a learning experience, but we'll get this thing working. All right, so now is the moment of truth. I'm going to go ahead and try to upload all of this to the server and see how much crashes on me. All right, so I've uploaded that to my server. I'm going to see, like I said, I have no confidence that this thing's going to work. So there's no compilation error, which is good. It doesn't mean that, it means that we haven't completely effed something up. All right, now we need to go over to, I think it's movie and then API. Is that right? No, that's not right. Oh, you know what? I wasn't even using, I have to update my regular URLs file because I wasn't even using URLs for that app, so the production application doesn't know about it. So let me show you here. damn it, it's down here. Alright, so we need to add, include. We're going to include movie.urls. Alright, so here's the first error. It says Viewsets is not defined in views line. So if I pull up Viewsets, actually no, it just needs to be imported. So we're going to say from REST framework. God damn it. REST framework import Viewsets. So let me see if this makes any difference. Alright, so now we get a new error. Movie is not defined. I thought I imported that, but I guess it's not finding it. So let's take a look at that. It's in the movie view set. Yeah, that would definitely be a problem here. You can see that it's referencing the movie class and we haven't imported it. So we need to say from movie. Let's say from models import movie. That should work. Alright, so let's try that again. God damn it. That's a misspelling pattern. This is what happens when you freeform type stuff. Alright, so we got patterns, URLs line 8. None of this stuff's a big deal. Just all typical stuff anytime you're developing. Especially when you're writing stuff out. So patterns, it's a typo. Go ahead and upload. Go back to it, refresh. Alright, and we have the API. Alright, so the API is working. We got no style though, that's weird. Typically if you run into this problem, you probably want to do a collect static. So we're going to go ahead and try to do that real quick. Permission issue. If you're on Linux, you want to do a sudo command when you do that. So python manage.py collect static. And just type yes. So copied some static files in this mother F, and it's still not working. Alright, so I have some sort of a messed up setting with my situation on the static files. I don't know why that's not working, but all I need to do, since it's Linux, I can make a static link or symbolic link from the Django REST framework where it's installed, where those CSS files are currently sitting. Oh shit, so there would be a problem there. So we just say static and then REST framework maybe. Alright, this should definitely work. Alright, so REST framework. Alright, good. Alright, so booyah. There we go. I don't know why I just said booyah, guys. Sorry about that. Anyway, so now we have static CSS and everything working here. Alright, so when we look at this thing, we got options. We got over here, we can say, let's look at some JSON. And you go to new movies API. Now, if I want to say like movie 1 and movie not found, let's find a movie that does exist. What movie was this? Movie 108. Okay, it has no attribute owner, and that is actually our permission coming in and screwing with us right now. But let me go ahead and make an adjustment to that. So I actually don't want to make an adjustment to that right now just because this is in production. If you go over here, you can switch between the API and JSON. I'm going to put JSON, and you can see it just formats JSON on the end. And by doing so, we can do a get, which is what we're going to... Okay, there we go. All right, so it needs to be, because it's in the movie application, and our API is a URL within the movie, within the project. And then we have the actual movie object name followed by the actual ID of the movie entry. And you can see that we're getting 3 results back. We're getting the title, the ID, and the image. And the reason why we're getting that back is because of how we defined that. So if we go back over to our movie object over here and we look at our serializers, we can see that we're only returning the title, the ID, the image. And you would just add each element that you do want to return for that. So for right now, though, since we do have a basic setup now where we can retrieve stuff via JSON calls and via a RESTful API, we just kind of want to leave Django REST framework there and now move on to the Angular aspect. All right, let's go back over to our application. One of the things we need to do to our URLs file is if we want to go ahead and give it a base URL, so when we go to that URL will serve as like the single page app that Angular is. I mean, it's all about having a single page, do all your routing and all that crap without having to have a bunch of different URLs and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and define that now. And this is just going to be, we're going to call this movie. And we'll say movie.views.index. And now that we've done that, let's go ahead and move over to the view so we can add that. And above the class here, let's go ahead and define that index. It's just a simple request, just like Django always does, and we'll say render to response. This is where we actually are going to use that render to response that we brought in before. Now we need to point to the template where this thing is going to exist. So you should have some sort of template. Have some sort of template directory. I have it sitting in my static and templates, and what we're going to do is we're actually going to create a new folder for that, and I'm going to call this movie 2. So it's kind of like the entire update. So I'll say movie 2, and we'll just call this movie.html, and then request context request. Now we also need to import the request context. So let's say from Django.template import request context. Alright guys, so now that we've done that, what we need to do is go ahead and create an index file inside our movie2 folder. Or not really an index, but just a web page. We're going to call this movie. As you can see, we reference it here. And what I'm going to do is I actually have a web page that follows the design that I was showing you guys earlier for the site that I'm currently in the process of redoing. And just so you know what I'm talking about, it's this page here. So like the CSS, the kind of layout and everything is going to be the direction that I take this. With or without Angular, I'm not 100% sure yet, but you know, at this point we're looking at implementing Angular for this page. So I don't want to bore you with writing all of that template code and everything, so I'm just going to paste all that in here. But all this is just a Django template. And due to my editor, I have to do a weird save here because it does this signature thing on it and it messes up in Chrome. I just have to do this real quick. Alright, now first things first, we're going to create a app in our project for Angular. So we're going to start moving into Angular specific stuff. And the name of our app is going to be called just Movie App. So in order to get an Angular app to work, not just Django, but anywhere, you have to actually specify it. So we need to go ahead and do that now in our HTML tag. Make sure it's not the doc type, but the actual HTML tag. We're going to go ahead and say ng-app equals movie app. Okay. All right, now that we've done that, let's go ahead and we need to download Angular. So just go here, we're going to download, make note of the version that we're grabbing. We're grabbing 1, 12.26, and I'm going to grab the uncompressed version. That way it's easier to debug it. You might get this it could harm your computer. Don't worry about it. It's just JavaScript. Just go ahead and grab that. We're going to open it. Contents are going to look like this. Just go ahead and copy all that content. And inside the folder where we're developing, I'm going to be putting the JavaScript files that we're going to be developing in a JS folder under movie 2 because this is a rewrite for me. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new JavaScript file in this JavaScript movie 2 folder, and I'll call this Angular. And we want to make sure we call it the same version. So 12.26, is that what that was? Yeah, 12.26. So make sure we make note of that. So we'll add that. Oh, god damn it, this should be .js. Alright, so it's an Angular file. We'll paste all that Angular code in there and save it. Now with Angular to work, you also need to have the Angular route to download from. So let's go ahead and grab that. And that's so that it'll handle client-side routing. So what you want to do is just click on this previous versions and go down to 1226 and open that folder and look for Angular route. And we're going to copy this. And let's create another JavaScript file, Angular, and we'll call it route, and give it the version 12.26.js. And then in here, we're going to go ahead and paste all that. Now it's important that we go ahead and bring that into our Django template. So we're going to reference Angular first. Okay. And then we'll say Angular route. So make sure we bring in both Angular and Angular route. Now we're going to go ahead and create a folder that Angular needs, which is going to be called, it's another JavaScript file, and it's going to be called app.js. And app.js is where we're going to actually define that movie app that we just added to our Django template. So we'll say variable movie app equals angular.module, not modules. That's gotten me before. God damn it, and no wonder, because it automatically does it thanks to my editor. Okay, that's why. Anyway, that thing's bitten me a couple times. So movie app is the first argument, and then we're going to pass in a list of ng route, and we're going to say movie controllers. Go ahead and close that off. Now under movie app, we're going to add a config, so movie app.config. And we're going to say route provider, and on the next line we'll say function, and then we pass in the route provider, and then we say route provider again, and then we say dot, and then just do a new line under that, and we say when. And now we're creating URLs like you see with Django. So we're going to identify a URL just like the Django URL. So we're going to say movie / colon, and then we'll say movie ID. Okay. All right, open and close brace. Now let's give a template URL, and this is going to be an actual path to where it can find the URL on your website. So it's newmovies.com/static JS, and then we call this movie 2, and then we're going to create a folder inside movie 2 called partials, and we're going to create a HTML page named moviedetail.html. Now we assign it to a controller. Controller equals movie controller. All right, let's close that off. And then this is all one line here. All right, now in order for routes to work with Django, we need to add another thing to our movie app. And we're going to say movie app .config again, and Django has the built-in CSRF protection for cross-site forgery protection, and it'll reject GET and POST requests to your RESTful service without that token being passed along with the request. So that's what we're going to do right now, is we're going to set this up so that every request that is made, it takes the token from the browser session and passes that along with the RESTful request, so it won't be rejected by Django. And here, that's what we're going to do. We're going to say HTTP provider.defaults.xsrf cookie name equals CSRF token, and that's the cookie name that Django always passes in its sessions. HTTP provider.defaults, and then this one is XSRF header name equals XCSRF token. Alright, so that'll take care of a lot of headaches. That's a big gotcha when you're dealing with Django and Angular. Alright, so now that we've identified our app, let's go ahead and add it to our movie folder so we don't forget to do that. So we're going to copy this line here, just paste it, and then remove the Angular stuff. We're going to say app.js. Okay. Now let's go ahead and create a new JavaScript file, which is going to be our controller file, and this is going to handle routing for us. It's a new JavaScript file. We'll call this controllers.js. And here we're going to define movie controllers equals angular.module. This is going to type modules even though I don't want it to. Let's say movie controllers. Pass in an empty list. We're going to close that statement off. Now we need to identify the API call for movie details so it can return the movie image and things that we did earlier in this video. So let's go ahead and do that now. We're going to say movie controllers .controllers, and we'll call this movie detail controller. And here we're going to pass in a list so it's scope, route params, and HTTP. On this next line, we're going to say function, and the arguments are scope, route params, and HTTP. On the next line, we say http.get, and this is going to be the actual URL to where it can find your JSON RESTful service. In this case, since it's a movie detail, we want it to go to the API where it can actually get information from the movie. So we'll say www.noobmovies.com/movie/API/movie again, another / and then here we're going to use our route params. Actually, we need to concatenate those, so make sure there's a plus sign there. And we're going to say route params dot movie ID plus, and then / format equals JSON. Then we need to say .success, which is a callback function in JavaScript. And what this is, it's a callback that just simply passes back data from the API call, and that data is going to be assigned to the scope.movie, and we're going to say it equals data. And this movie app thing got concatenated. I did not want that. So scope.movie equals data. So what this does is any call made to this the band, so movie detail. So you movie detail, if it's movie 108, route params.movie ID is going to be 108, right? And it goes to this API, and on success, so if it gets a 200 back from the RESTful service, that 200 success is going to pass back the data from the RESTful service, which is JSON, and it's going to assign it to an Angular movie scope object where it does that here. Hopefully this will all make more sense to both you and I later on as we get more comfortable with Angular, but this is all Angular stuff, and everybody wants to live in the world of single page apps and all that shit, so that's what this is all about. JavaScript everything, I guess. Anyway, so that's what that does. Alright, so before we forget, we want to make sure that we go ahead and we add that to our movie HTML Django template page. So this is going to be controllers.js. Right now, if you notice in our app here, we are referencing a movie2/partials moviedetail.html. So we need to go ahead and add that now. So here's our movie2 folder. We're going to add an additional folder for partials, where we can add the partial view that Angular is going to render when a request is made for a specific movie. So let's add an HTML page, and we're just going to call this movie detail like we've already specified there. And I want to get rid of all this crap, and I want to just say h1 equals movie.title, and then we're going to pass back an image. So we're going to grab an image tag, and we'll say image source equals movie.url, or no, I'm sorry, .image. And then I want to give a width of 300 and a height of 400 for right now. And that's really all we're going to deal with on this template, this partial view. Now, in order for that partial view to work, we need to go back to our movie Django template. And below all this stuff down here, I'm going to go ahead and you have to identify where do you want the partial view to be displayed within the master template, which is what this movie HTML page is. It's essentially, you can consider it a master template. So that being said, I want to place it inside of this div tag here so that it should be centered in the screen if everything goes well. So we need to say div ng-view, and that's it. That's all you gotta do. Right now, all this stuff needs to be loaded to the server, which I'm going to do right now. So if we look at this here, this is what we got. This is our page. Now, when you go to, let's just go to newmovies.com, figure out, kind of recap what we did. Currently, newmovies.com has a movie, and if I go to movie 118, you get, oh, is it 119? This one doesn't have an image. Okay, there we go. All right, so you get this page. This is the normal Django rendering before I ever got started. If you actually go to this page, you're going to see something different. This is the redesign that's not in effect yet. But this is normally what you get. Now, what we did though is that if we go to /movie and then /movie, we are going to get to our Django, not without the /. I'm sorry. Just /, and now you're going to the single page app, and this is displaying that template that I showed you that I copied over. It's displaying this template, and it's adding the movie app and all that stuff. So if Angular likes what we have so far, we shouldn't get any complaints in the browser, and that's what I want to check for right now. So if you're using Chrome, you can just right click and say inspect element and then go over to the console. And I got a couple of 404s not found, but those are for images as part of the UI that I'm not worried about. So there's no Django specific puking going on, or Angular specific puking going on, which is good. So this is Django now serving an Angular page. Now what we're going to do, in order to query our RESTful service using Angular's routing system, we need to make sure that after the movie there is a # and then /, and we're going to say movie. And let's go ahead and try to find that enchanted movie by doing /119. So from within the single page app, it's going to handle the routing based on this part right here. And it worked. So you can see that because if we go back to what we did on this long ass video originally, we ended up passing back specific data, right? God, I got so much stuff pulled up now. No, it wasn't that. It was in our serializers that we decided, okay, we're going to pass back a title and ID, which really isn't going to be necessary for UI perspective, or at least for a presentation anyway, and then the image. So those are the only three things that I'm bringing back. So that's why this displays in this way. But this is using Angular to do it. So I think 108 was a Chipmunk movie. So yeah, you see that. So that's there's another one too. So it's actually using Angular on a Django application, communicating with a Django RESTful service built with the Django REST framework. And this really just touches the surface of Angular, but at least it gives you an idea on the initial headache just to kind of get a Django server stack set up to work with Angular and the Django REST framework. So there's a ton of information and a lot of tinkering and things that you can do with just REST framework or with Angular. So I'm not going to be getting into that in this particular video. This was just how to get over the hump and getting Angular to work with Django. Alright guys, I appreciate it if you stuck it out with me, and I apologize for any sort of errors or mistakes that were made along the way. This is what I would consider a pretty complex subject. I do C# development at work, and this is just as hard as anything that, or at least just the unfamiliar nature of it makes it difficult. But all that stuff gets easier with time, and I think Django is a perfect candidate for hosting Angular applications and single-page apps and things. So anyway, guys, feel free to leave a comment. Please rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll try to get back to you guys if you have errors and things, or if you need help with your project. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.